Welcome to Vintage Horror, where the darkness comes alive. Before we begin, tell us, where are you watching from? What time is it in your world right now? And most importantly, how does this tale make you feel? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and brace yourself for a chilling journey into the unknown. Alex, a wiry hiker in their late 20s with a faded green backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder, steps onto the forest trail just as the morning sun crests the horizon, its golden rays piercing through a canopy ablaze with fiery reds, deep oranges, and shimmering golds, the crunch of brittle autumn leaves under their scuffed boots, a steady grounding rhythm against the faint whistle of wind weaving through the branches, the air crisp with the promise of a day untainted by the city's relentless clamor. They pause near a gnarled oak, its trunk thick with moss, and its branches drooping like an old man's shoulders, sipping from a nearly full water bottle as they pull out their phone, full signal bars glowing bright, and mutter to themselves, "Perfect day to ditch the grind, just me in these woods for a fresh start, no deadlines, no noise," their voice tinged with excitement, a grin tugging at their lips as they imagine shedding weeks of stress. The solitude of balm they've craved since the last overtime shift left them hollow. The trail stretches ahead, a winding ribbon of dirt marked by weathered blazes painted on tree trunks, white slashes faded but clear enough to follow, and Alex adjusts their light jacket against the brisk October breeze, inhaling the sharp scent of pine mingled with the faint musk of decaying leaves, their steps quick and confident as they set out, oblivious to how the shadows behind them stretch just a little too long, the forest standing silent and watchful, its depths whispering secrets they can't yet hear. The morning sun, a fleeting guest soon to abandon them to the wood's quiet embrace. 2 hours into the hike, the sun climbs higher, its light filtering through the canopy in dappled patches, though a wall of slate-gray clouds begins rolling in from the west, muting the vibrant colors into shades of ash and amber, the air growing cooler, quieter, the distant chatter of birds, sparrows and jays that had chirped a cheerful chorus earlier, fading into an unsettling hush that presses against Alex's ears like a weight, their flashlight now gripped loosely in one hand as they squint at a trail marker, half covered by a shroud of damp moss, muttering, "This should loop back to the parking lot soon, right? That boulder looks familiar. Maybe I passed it already." Their phone signal flickers, 3 bars, then 2, then 1, then none, and they curse softly, "Come on, don't crap out on me now. Not out here," shoving it back into their pocket with a frustrated huff, the screen's blank glare mocking their growing unease as they shake their head, trying to recall the paper map they'd glanced at in the car, its creased edges now a distant memory. A twig snaps sharply to their left, louder than the rustling leaves stirred by the wind, and Alex swings the beam across the underbrush, its weak light catching only swaying ferns and twisted branches. No deer, no rabbits, just an empty void staring back at them through the gathering shadows, the sound lingering in their mind like an unanswered knock. They force a shaky laugh, probably the wind, or my nerves getting twitchy, and trudge on, boots scuffing the dirt, but the trail blurs into overgrown thickets, the markers thinning out like whispers, swallowed by the encroaching dusk, the forest's silence deepening into something alive, something that seems to lean closer, listening to every breath they take. By mid-afternoon, the clouds thicken, casting the forest in a premature twilight the trees standing taller, their gnarled limbs curling against the bruised sky as Alex pauses to catch their breath, leaning against a pine trunk, its rough bark scraping their palm as they mutter, "Okay, Alex, focus. Trail's got to be here somewhere. You're not lost yet?" "Not really." Their voice tinged with a flicker of doubt they try to shove down. The phone lies dead in their pocket, its battery drained despite a full charge at the trailhead, and they whisper, "No signal, no map. Perfect timing. Just perfect." Sarcasm masking the tremor creeping into their tone as they scan the woods, the once familiar path, now a tangle of roots and brambles that snag at their jeans, tugging like fingers trying to slow them down, the air growing heavier with the scent of damp earth and something faintly sour. Another snap, closer this time, deliberate, not the wind. And Alex spins, the flashlight's beam darting wildly across the trees. "Who's there? This isn't funny. If it's a prank, cut it out," they call, their shouts swallowed by the trunks, echoing back in a hollow, mocking tone that sends a shiver racing down their spine, their pulse quickening as they strain to hear a response, footsteps, a laugh, anything human. But the silence returns, thicker, more oppressive, wrapping around them like a shroud. The light catches nothing but shadows, yet the air feels charged, alive with an unseen presence, and Alex steps back, heart, the last sliver of daylight, bleeds away behind the horizon, leaving the forest cloaked in a deepening gloom that clings to the trees like a shroud, the temperature dropping as Alex's flashlight flickers on, its beam a frail thread cutting through the thickening dark, their breath puffing in faint clouds as they stumble over a root, muttering, "Stay calm. Retrace your steps. There's a ridge somewhere, right? I saw it on the map. I know I did." Their voice tight with rising unease, hands fumbling with the flashlight as its light dims, despite fresh batteries that morning. Their jacket feels thin against the chill, the cold seeping through as they whisper, "No, no, no. This isn't happening. I'm not lost." Denial, battling the panic, clawing at their chest, their eyes darting to the trees, their branches now skeletal silhouettes against the bruised sky, swaying faintly though the wind has stilled. A rustle, sharp, too close, cuts through the silence, and Alex swings the beam, shouting, "Hello? I'm not alone out here. I know you're there." Their voice cracking as it bounces off the trunks, unanswered, the silence afterward, deeper, more suffocating, pressing against them like a living thing. The light catches a flicker of movement, tall, shadowy, gone in a blink, and their pulse races, fear whispering that this isn't a mistake, that something in these woods has been waiting, watching, guiding them deeper with every step. The trail's familiarity, a lie unraveling beneath their feet, full darkness crashes down, like a curtain, the forest transforming into an inky abyss, where Alex's flashlight flickers, weakly, its batteries draining faster than they should, the beam barely piercing the suffocating black as they trip over a jutting root, muttering, "Stay calm, Alex. Retrace your steps. Find higher ground." Anything, their voice trembling, hands shaking as they fumble with the dead phone, its blank screen a useless weight in their pocket, a lifeline severed without warning. Their breath fogs in the chilly air, the cold biting at their fingers as they whisper, "No signal, no battery. Of course, why not?" Sarcasm, their only shield against the panic, rising like bile in their throat, their chest tightening with every rustle of leaves that sounds too close, too intentional. The forest silence, now a predator, crouching in the dark. A heavy thud echoes, Footsteps, not wind. Too rhythmic, too deliberate. And Alex freezes, shouting, "Show yourself! I'm not playing games!" Into the void, their voice cracking as it bounces off the trunks, unanswered, the silence afterward. Deeper, more oppressive, wrapping around them like a noose that tightens with every breath. The beam dances over gnarled bark, catching a fleeting shape. Tall, shadowy, humanoid but not quite. Gone in a blink, and their heart slams against their ribs. Fear screaming that they're not lost by accident, that something in these woods has been stalking them, drawing them deeper into its grasp. The night, a trap they can't see the edges of. Alex staggers through the underbrush, their jackets snagging on thorns that tear at the fabric, leaving thin scratches on their arms that sting in the cold, the flashlight dimming to a sickly glow as they mutter, "There's gotta be a way out. Ranger station, a road, anything, please." Their voice ragged, desperation clawing at their throat as the forest presses in, its branches scraping their skin like skeletal fingers reaching out from the dark, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and something metallic, sharp enough to prickle their nose. A rustle circles them, left, then right, then behind. A deliberate pattern that sets their teeth on edge, and they swing the beam, shouting, "Show yourself! I know you're out there. I'm not afraid." The lie trembling in their voice as the light reveals only swaying shadows that seem to shift when they turn away. The woods playing tricks, or hiding something far worse, their breath hitching as the realization sinks in that they're being hunted, not just lost. Their boots sink into damp earth, the ground sucking at their souls, and they whisper, "Please just be an animal, just a deer," though their gut twists with the certainty it's not. A deer doesn't stalk, doesn't circle its prey with such patience, such intent. And the air grows colder, sharper, pressing against them like a wall. Panic surges, their chest heaving as they break into a run, branches whipping their face, leaves crunching underfoot, the forest a labyrinth closing tighter around them. The unseen hunter's presence, a weight they can't shake, driving them blindly forward through the suffocating night, their flashlight flickering like a dying star in their trembling hand. Half blind with terror, Alex crashes through a thicket, thorns drawing thin lines of blood from their hands and cheeks, their breath coming in short, ragged gasps as they mutter, "Keep going. There's something. There has to be." Their voice a desperate thread against the dark when a faint blue glow pierces the blackness. Ahead, steady and unnatural against the chaotic sway of trees, sparking a choked, "Oh, thank God, someone's here," from their parched throat. As they lurch toward it, hope flaring amidst the dread, like a match struck in a storm, fragile but fierce. They push forward, ignoring the sting of scratches, the light sharpening into a window's outline. A house, a cabin, civilization at last. And they shout, "Help! I'm lost. Please, anyone out there?" Their voice raw, cracking with exhaustion, as the forest seems to part reluctantly, the undergrowth thinning as if guiding them toward the glow, roots receding from their path like a grudging concession. The light grows brighter, more defined, revealing a weathered cabin in a small clearing, its gray wood splintered and sagging under years of neglect, the blue glow spilling from cracked windows where countless mirrors glint like watchful eyes. And Alex slows, chest heaving, a chill prickling their neck as the air thickens with a metallic tang, whispering that this might not be the salvation they'd prayed for, but a new kind of peril lurking just beyond the threshold. The hope flickering as they take a cautious step closer, the forest holding its breath behind them. Alex steps onto the creaking porch, the boards groaning under their weight, like a chorus of warnings, their hand trembling as they raise it to knock, the flashlight dangling uselessly at their side, its last flicker dying with a faint whine as they whisper, "Please, just let someone normal be here. Someone with a phone, a map, anything to get me out." Their voice, a fragile thread against the night's oppressive silence, their heart pounding as they brace for whatever lies beyond. Before their knuckles touch the wood, the door swings open with a low, mournful groan that reverberates in their chest, revealing an old woman with wild white hair cascading over her shoulders like a tangled shroud, her pale, almost colorless eyes locking onto them with an intensity that makes their stomach lurch, her presence filling the space like a storm cloud rolling in, heavy and inevitable, her silhouette framed by the eerie blue light spilling from within. She rasps, Well, a visitor. How unexpected." Her thin lips stretching into a grimace that doesn't reach her gaze, and Alex stammers, "I'm lost. Please, can you help me? Ranger station? A phone? I just need to get out of here." Their voice shaky, pleading, as she tilts her head, studying them like a predator sizing up its next meal, her silence stretching too long, too heavy, before she gestures inside with a bony hand. "No phones here, dear, and the station's miles off. You'd freeze out there in the dark. Come in, rest till morning." Her tone coaxing, yet edged with something sinister, a promise Alex can't decipher, her eyes glinting like frost in the dim light. They hesitate, the cold night biting at their back, warring with the unease radiating from her unblinking stare, their legs heavy with exhaustion as they glance back at the dark woods. Then forward again, the cabin's glow, a lure they can't resist, and they step over the threshold, the door thudding shut behind them with a finality that echoes in their bones like a lock snapping closed, sealing them into whatever fate awaits. Inside, Alex perches on a rickety chair that creaks under their weight, its uneven legs wobbling as they shift, the cabin's interior a jarring clash of eras, dusty antiques like a creaking rocking chair swaying faintly in the corner as if moved by an unseen hand, a tarnished silver candelabra dripping wax onto a scarred table beside a cracked radio spitting static in faint, erratic bursts, all sitting alongside a humming laptop with a dark screen and a glowing digital clock flashing random numbers. 3:47, then 12:19, then 7:02, its rhythm disjointed, the room bathed in an eerie blue light that seeps from unseen sources, casting long shadows that flicker across walls lined with mirrors of every size. Small, handheld ones propped on shelves, full-length ones leaning precariously against the peeling wallpaper, their surfaces reflecting warped, dizzying versions of the space that make Alex's head spin with vertigo, their own face staring back, pale and drawn, eyes too wide in the fractured light. The old woman shuffles around, her shadow stretching unnaturally across the walls, muttering in a guttural tongue, harsh, like stones grinding together, words that twist in the air and slip away before Alex can grasp them. A chant that buzzes in their ears like a swarm of flies, and they force out, "Nice place you've got here," their voice thin, a weak attempt at normalcy to steady their fraying nerves. But she doesn't respond, just watches them with those pale eyes as she tends a wood stove in the corner, its flames crackling and spitting, casting flickering shadows that dance across the mirrors like restless spirits, their movements too fluid, too alive. The air grows thick with a sour, earthy scent, damp soil and something rancid underneath, like meat left too long in the sun. And Alex shifts uncomfortably, their hands clenching the chair's arms, the mirrors catching their reflection, sweat beating on their brow, a flicker of something not quite them in the corner of the glass, as if something else peers back, waiting, the cabin alive with secrets that hum beneath its worn floorboards, secrets they can feel prickling their skin but can't yet name, their unease coiling tighter with every creak and whisper. Alex's gaze darts around the room, settling on a faded photograph pinned to the wall, a grainy image of a young woman with sharp features standing beside the cabin in sunlight, her smile tight and forced, her eyes wide with something like fear, and they squint, whispering, "That looks familiar." A flicker of recognition tugging at their memory, though they can't place it, their mind too afraid to connect the dots as the old woman's muttering grows louder, a rhythmic chant that buzzes in their ears, discordant and insistent, pulling their attention back to the present. They shift again, the chair creaking louder, and notice a pile of hiking gear in the corner, backpacks with frayed straps, a torn jacket stained with mud, a rusted compass half buried under a pair of weathered boots, stacked haphazardly, each item abandoned and worn, and their stomach twists. "People leave stuff behind here?" they ask, voice trembling, their eyes darting to the woman as she glances over her shoulder, her pale eyes narrowing as she rasps, "Folks come and go. Some stay longer than they plan. Some don't plan at all." Her words heavy with a meaning that sends a shiver racing down Alex's spine. Her smile a thin slash that doesn't reach her gaze. The mirrors glint, reflecting the gear briefly before the image distorts, showing the room empty again. And Alex blinks, rubbing their eyes. "I'm seeing things. Tired, that's all, just tired." But the unease coils tighter, the photograph's face lingering in their mind. Someone they've seen, maybe on a missing hiker poster at the trailhead, a news report, half remembered from months ago. And the realization creeps in that this cabin might hold more than just one night's shelter, its walls steeped in the echoes of those who never left, their belongings a silent testament to fates Alex can't yet fathom, the air growing heavier with every breath they take. The old woman returns from the stove, her hands clutching two chipped mugs, steam curling from a dark, oily liquid that shimmers unnaturally, like ink pooling in the dim light, its surface catching the blue glow in the strange, hypnotic swirls as she presses one into Alex's grip with a pointed, "Drink up. It'll warm you right through." Her pale gaze boring into them like a drill, unblinking, relentless. As they hesitate, the smell sharp and wrong, rot masked by a bitter herbal tang that stings their nose and makes their throat tighten, a scent that whispers of something ancient, something buried too long. They murmur, "Thanks," their voice barely a whisper, the mug warm against their cold, trembling fingers, the heat a stark contrast to the chill seeping into their bones from the night outside. And though every instinct screams to toss it aside, politeness, or perhaps fear of her unwavering stare, wins out, and they take a cautious sip, the taste metallic and biting, coating their tongue like tar as they grimace, choking out, "What's in this? It's strong." Their eyes watering from the burn that spreads down their throat, a warmth that feels too alive, too invasive. She smiles, A thin, predatory stretch that shows too many teeth, yellowed and uneven, and rasps. Something to settle you, dear. A long night ahead, and you'll need your strength. Her words dripping with a promise that tightens Alex's chest. The mirrors glinting as if in agreement, reflecting their uneasy swallow as the liquid slides down. A slow poison they can't yet feel, creeping through their veins. Its warmth spreading too fast, too deep, whispering of something inevitable, drawing closer with every heartbeat, their hands shaking slightly as they grip the mug tighter. The woman's gaze a weight they can't escape, pinning them to the chair like a specimen under glass. The tea strikes like a hammer blow, dizziness crashing over Alex in a sudden, violent wave, the room tilting as they slur. What? What did you do to me? Their mug slipping from numb fingers to shatter on the floor, ceramic shards scattering across the worn boards like broken bones, the sound sharp and jarring as the mirrors swirl into a blur of fractured light that fractures their reflection into a dozen distorted faces. Some theirs, pale and terrified, some not. Strangers with hollow eyes staring back, all trapped in the glass. The old woman's features warp before them, ancient wrinkles smoothing to youthful skin. Her hair darkening briefly to a rich brown, then twisting into something inhuman. Hollow sockets gaping where eyes should be, jagged teeth flashing in a maw that stretches too wide, too wrong, her form flickering like a flame caught between states, while she leans close, rasping just a little something to help you sleep. You'll need it for what's to come. Her voice echoing in their skull like a chorus of whispers, overlapping, suffocating, drilling into their mind as the room spins faster, the blue light pulsing in time with their racing heart. Alex staggers, legs buckling under a weight they can't fight, their vision swimming as they claw at the air, fingers brushing the edge of the table before slipping. A final glimpse in a mirror showing their face. Older, gaunt, eyes brimming with terror, a stranger staring back with decades they don't remember living before they collapse onto the floorboards, the woman's shadow looming over them, her wild hair brushing their cheek like spider silk, cold and clinging as darkness rushes in, thick and absolute, swallowing them whole into its silent, endless depths. Their last thought, a desperate, fading plea. This isn't real. It can't be. Lost to the void as their body goes limp. The cabin's hum, the only sound left, a lullaby for the damned. Alex jolts awake on a narrow cot, head pounding like a war drum, sunlight streaming through the cabin's grimy windows in harsh, slanting beams that stab at their eyes. Dust motes swirling lazily in the air as they lurch to their feet, the room eerily still. The old woman gone, leaving only the faint hum of the mirrors lining the walls, their surfaces glinting with a cold, watchful gleam that makes their skin crawl, the air heavy with a silence that feels alive, pressing against them like a held breath. Their throat feels raw, tongue thick with the tea's bitter aftertaste, metallic and lingering, coating their mouth like a film they can't spit out. And they stumble to the window, hands shaking as they press against the glass, peering out, expecting the clearing, the trees, but freeze, breath catching in their chest as the view shifts, the glass rippling like water to reveal a circle of towering standing stones, ancient and moss-covered, their surfaces etched with symbols that writhe like living things, pulsing faintly with a greenish glow. The forest beyond twisted into unnatural spirals, trees black and glistening with sap that drips like blood onto the damp earth below, pooling in dark, sticky patches This isn't right. This can't be real, Alex whispers, voice trembling as they fling open the door, stepping out only to find the cabin gone, the stones solid and cold beneath their boots, the air buzzing with an electric hum that vibrates in their bones, the woods staring back, alien, unyielding, a nightmare landscape where time and place have unraveled, leaving them stranded in a reality that defies everything they know, their mind reeling as they spin, searching for the cabin, for any sign of the world they left behind, their hands clenching into fists as the hum grows louder, a pulse that sinks with their racing heart, whispering that they're no longer where or when they belong. The old woman emerges from behind a stone, her figure no longer fixed, ageless now, her skin shifting between smooth youth and reptilian scales, then back to shadow, her wild hair flowing like a river of white ink, catching the strange light as she circles Alex, rasping, "You're exactly where you were just a little further along, 50 years or so, give or take." Her laugh brittle and sharp, slicing through the stone's low hum like a blade through silk, each note a taunt that burrows into Alex's skull, her pale eyes glinting like frost. As they bore into them, unblinking, unrelenting, they back away, boots sinking into the soft, damp earth, shouting, "What have you done? Take me back, now, this isn't my life." Their voice cracking with desperation, hands balling into fists as they fight the urge to lunge at her, to shake answers from her shifting form. But she smirks, a cruel twist of her lips. Time's a funny thing, so rigid for most, so fluid for us. You've been claimed, dear, pulled through the wood's heart, just like the others before you. They catch their reflection in a puddle, their face lined with decades of wear, eyes hollow with an unspeakable weight they don't remember earning, and choke out, "No, this isn't me. I'm not that old. I was hiking yesterday." Their hands trembling as they touch their cheeks, feeling the unfamiliar creases, the rough skin, the weight of years etched into flesh that should be smooth. But she steps closer, her voice a whisper. "Look deeper. It's already begun." Her presence a cold wind that stirs the memories clawing at the edges of their fracturing mind. Her form shimmering as if she's both here and not, a specter woven into the fabric of this twisted place. Her laughter a thread that binds them to her will. Her words unlock a floodgate, and Alex clutches their head, visions crashing in like a tidal wave. Years trapped in the cabin, their hands pouring that dark, oily tea for lost hikers, their voice coaxing with false warmth as they led them through the woods to the stone circle, where shadows writhed and blood stained the earth. Rituals that stretched their life at the cost of others, the mirrors watching every betrayal with silent approval, reflecting their descent into something they didn't recognize, their own face smiling back at them, older, colder, hollowed out by decades of this endless task. Faces flashing by, young men with hopeful eyes, women with tired smiles, all blurring into a parade of the lost, their screams echoing in the night as the stones drank deep. They fall to their knees, sobbing, "I'd never do that. I'm not you. I'm not a monster." Staring at their weathered reflection in the puddle, the face of a stranger who's lived decades they can't recall, their chest heaving as they claw at the ground, dirt caking under their nails, their breath ragged as they fight the images, the sensations, the metallic taste of the tea, the weight of a knife in their hand, the hum of the stones as life faded from pleading eyes. The woman kneels beside them, her touch cold as frostbite, murmuring, "Don't fight it, dear. It gets easier with time, and we've had plenty of that, you and I." Her voice a soothing venom that seeps into their bones, and Alex gasps, "How? Why me? Why any of this?" Their voice breaking as the memories sharpen, screams echoing through the trees, their own hands stained red, the endless repetition of welcoming smiles, a ritual they can't unlearn. And she replies, "The tea opened you, the woods chose you, you're us now, part of its roots." Her smile cruel, the truth, a jagged shard piercing deeper into their soul, tearing away the last threads of who they thought they were, leaving only the shell of what they've become. Alex rocks back on their heels, the puddle rippling beneath their knees as they stare at the aged face, staring back, whispering, "This can't be real. I was just hiking, just a day ago. I had a life, friends, a job." Their voice breaking as the forest hums louder, the stone symbols glowing faintly, their light casting eerie patterns across the twisted trees that seem to sway in time with the rhythm, their black bark glistening with sap that drips slowly, pooling in the dirt like tears, the air thick with the scent of decay and something alive, something hungry. The woman, now a mirror of their older self, stands over them, her form steadying into the wild-haired figure from the cabin, saying, "Real or not, it's yours now. 50 years of service to the woods, and more to come." Her tone softening into a chilling lullaby that wraps around Alex like chains, pulling them deeper into the mire of their own making, her pale eyes glinting with a knowing that chills their blood. They claw at the ground, shouting, "I didn't choose this! I won't be you! I won't hurt anyone!" Their chest heaving with a spark of the person they were hours or decades ago, the hiker who'd stepped into the woods with hope. But the memories press harder. Nights of chanting under a blood-red moon, the taste of fear in the air as hikers begged, their own hands steady as they poured the tea, faces flashing by, young and old, all blurring into a parade of the lost. Their pleas swallowed by the stones, and Alex slumps, breath hitching. Was it always me? Did I ever have a chance to walk away? The woman nods, her voice a cold caress. The woods don't ask, they take. And they took you long before you knew, long before you stepped onto that trail. And the weight settles, heavy and inevitable, their resistance crumbling under decades. They never lived yet somehow know. Their mind a battlefield of denial and dawning acceptance. The forest's hum, a heartbeat they can't escape. The forest darkens further, the stones glow intensifying as Alex rises shakily, wiping tears from their lined face with the dirt-streaked hands, muttering, "If I'm you, then I can fight you. I can stop this, break the cycle." Their voice, a fragile thread of defiance against the hum that vibrates through the earth, the air thick with the scent of sap and decay, pressing against them like a living thing, the twisted trees leaning closer, as if drawn to their words, their branches creaking like whispers of dissent. The woman tilts her head, amusement flickering in her pale eyes. "Fight? Oh dear, you've tried. Every soul does at first." And she gestures to the stones, their symbols pulsing faster, as if alive, as if laughing at Alex's resolve, their light casting shadows that twist into shapes, figures, faces, hands reaching out before fading back into the gloom, a gallery of the damned mocking their effort. They clench their fists, stepping toward her. "I'm not some puppet. I'll burn this place down, smash the mirrors, find a way out, anything." their chest heaving with a spark of the person they once were, the hiker who'd laughed at the wind's tricks. But the memories surge again, unbidden, their own hands smashing a mirror once, shards cutting their palms, blood dripping onto the floorboards, only for it to reappear, whole and mocking, the woods regrowing faster than fire could claim, roots snaking up through ash and stone, and the woman chuckles. The woods don't burn, and neither do we. You've learned that lesson before, again and again. Her voice a cold wind snuffing out their fleeting hope, leaving them trembling in the shadow of their own eternity. Defiance, flickering like a candle in a storm, fragile and doomed against the wood's unyielding will. Night cloaks the twisted forest in a shroud, the standing stones glowing faintly as Alex stands, their defiance flickering out like a spent match. The woman, their older self, beside them, saying, "Another comes soon, they always do. It's your turn to greet them, just as I greeted you." Her voice, a whisper that blends with a hum, a promise of repetition that settles into Alex's bones like frost, their hands trembling as they clench them at their sides, fighting the pull they can already feel, stirring within. A distant rustle cuts through the silence. Not the wind, not an animal, but something heavier, stumbling, desperate. And Alex's head snaps up, their breath catching as a faint flashlight beam slices through the black tangle of trees, weaving erratically. A voice calling out, "Help! Please, is anyone out there?" Trembling with desperation, raw and familiar, a sound Alex knows too well from their own throat hours, or decades ago, a cry that sends a shiver down their spine, their stomach twisting with dread and recognition. They freeze, whispering, "No, not yet, I'm not ready, I can't do this." But the pull tugs at their chest, an instinct they can't name, their feet twitching as mirrors shimmer into existence around them. Small, cracked ones, hovering in the air like fireflies. Full-length ones rising from the earth like tombstones, reflecting their transformation. Eyes paling to a ghostly hue, hands trembling with a mix of dread and inevitability. The woman's presence, a cold weight beside them, her form blurring at the edges as she nods. "It's who we are now. Go to them." Alex steps forward, their voice rasping hollow. "A visitor! How unexpected!" The words spilling out unbidden, a script they didn't write. As the hiker's light grows closer, the cycle stirring awake once more, the forest's hum rising to meet it, a heartbeat they can't silence, pulling them deeper into the trap they've become a part of. The hiker stumbles into the clearing, a wiry figure in a red jacket, barely 20, their face pale and streaked with dirt, clutching their flashlight like a lifeline, its beam shaking as they spot Alex and gasp. "Oh, thank God, someone's here. I've been lost for hours. Thought I'd die out there." Their voice shaky, but flooded with relief as they stagger forward, boots crunching on the damp earth, their wide eyes darting between Alex and the stones, unease flickering beneath their gratitude as they take in the strange scene, the glowing symbols, the twisted trees, the mirrors glinting in the dark. But relief overrides it, driving them closer. Alex stands still, the mirrors reflecting their aged face. Beside the hiker's youthful one, 2 points on the same endless line, and they mutter, "You'll be safe here." The lie bitter on their tongue, the memories of their own arrival sharp in their mind. The glow, the woman, the tea, the fall, all replaying in the hiker's trusting gaze. Their innocence, a mirror Alex can't bear to look into. The newcomer keeps talking, nervous energy spilling out, I lost the trail after sunset. Phone died, no map, nothing. Thought I saw something moving it out there. Shadows, or I don't know. Maybe I'm losing it, but I'm just glad I'm not alone. Their laugh shaky, hands trembling as they wipe dirt from their face. And Alex nods absently. The woods can trick you, their voice flat, mechanical, as they gesture toward the unseen cabin, its outline flickering back into existence behind the stones, the blue glow spilling once more from its windows like a beacon, a lure they know too well. The woman's presence lingers at their shoulder, a cold whisper in their ear. Lead them as I led you. And Alex moves forward, the hiker following close, oblivious to the trap closing around them, their chatter a painful echo of Alex's own lost hope. The cycle tightening its grip with every step they take toward the door. The stones hum a steady pulse that drowns out their fading resistance. The cabin solidifies as they approach, its weathered wood groaning as if waking from a long sleep, the blue glow intensifying, spilling from the cracked windows to bathe the clearing in an unearthly light as Alex pushes the door open, its hinges creaking like a sigh, the hiker stepping inside with a relieved, "This is better than freezing out there. Thanks again," their voice bright, despite the tremor in their hands, as they sink into the rickety chair Alex once occupied, dropping their flashlight onto the table with a clatter, its beam flickering out as if snuffed by the cabin's will. Alex stands by the stove, hands moving automatically to stoke the fire, the flames crackling to life as the mirrors multiply around them, reflecting the scene in endless permutations, past and present blurring as the hiker rubs their arms, glancing around. Weird place, kind of cozy though, in a creepy way. Their laugh forced, eyes lingering on the pile of abandoned gear in the corner, backpacks with frayed straps, a torn jacket stained with mud, a rusted compass half buried under weathered boots before flicking to the mirrors, their reflection warping faintly, a flicker of confusion crossing their face as they mutter, "That's odd." I look off, shaking their head as if to clear it. Alex turns away, muttering, "It's warm. That's what matters." Their voice hollow as they pour the dark tea from a kettle that wasn't there moments ago, the liquid shimmering like oil in the mug, the woman's whisper echoing in their mind. "It's easier now, just as I said." Her presence fading into the shadows as the hiker takes the mug, sipping eagerly. This is weirdly good, bitter, but it hits the spot, their words slurring slightly as the tea takes hold, their eyes widening in confusion. "Wait, what's happening?" And Alex clenches their fists, unable to watch, the cycle spinning forward with a relentless, mechanical precision, the mirrors glinting, as if savoring the moment, the fires crackle, a mocking counterpoint to the hiker's faltering breath. The hiker's mug slips, shattering on the floor as they slump forward, gasping, "What? What did you do?" Their voice thick, eyes darting to Alex in betrayal before glazing over, the mirrors catching their fall, dizziness, a choked cry, the crash to the floorboards, replaying Alex's own descent decades ago in perfect, cruel detail. The reflections multiplying until the room is a kaleidoscope of collapsing figures, a gallery of the lost, staring back with fading eyes, their faces blurring into one another, a parade of terror frozen in glass. Alex turns away, whispering, "I'm sorry. I didn't want this." Their voice breaking as the hiker's breathing slows, the tea's poison working faster than it had for them, the woman's laughter echoing faintly. They'll wake where you did, and you'll guide them as I guided you, her form dissolving into the shadows, leaving Alex alone with the limp figure, the stone's hum seeping through the walls, a low pulse that syncs with their heartbeat, the cycle locking tighter around them like a chain forged in blood and time, relentless and unbreakable. They sink to their knees beside the hiker, hands trembling as they brush a strand of hair from the young face, so much like their own once was, full of life, full of trust, muttering, "You didn't deserve this. None of us did." But the words feel empty, powerless against the wood's will, the mirrors glinting as if mocking their guilt, the fire crackling in the stove. The only sound left as the hiker's chest stills, waiting for the next phase of the endless trap to unfold. Alex's hands stained not with blood, but with the weight of inevitability, a burden they can't wash away. The mirrors vanish one by one, the cabin stills, and Alex stands over the hiker, their reflection in a puddle outside the window, now fully theirs, aged, hollow, eternal, whispering, "How long does this go on?" To the empty air, their voice flat, resigned, the weight of decades pressing down like a stone on their chest, crushing the last flickers of who they'd been before the woods claimed them, their mind a tangle of guilt and surrender. The stone's hum answers, a low, mocking pulse that drowns their question, the forest beyond the glass twisting further, its black trees glistening with sap that drips like tears, pooling in the dirt, the air thick with the scent of decay and the promise of renewal, another lost soul destined to stumble through the dark, another cry for help that Alex will answer with the same hollow welcome they've given countless times, a script etched into their soul. They clench their fists, a flicker of their old self sparking, "I'll find a way out, I'll break this, for them, if not for me." But the memories flood back, relentless, every attempt to flee, every shattered mirror reforming, the woods regrowing around them, roots snaking through ash and stone, unyielding, their defiance snuffed out by the sheer weight of time, and they slump against the wall. "You don't control me," a lie they can't believe. The hiker stirring faintly on the floor, their eyes fluttering open to a new nightmare. The next link in the chain Alex has forged, their burden eternal, inescapable, a sentence without end, their hands trembling as they watch the cycle repeat, powerless to stop it, powerless to save anyone, least of all themselves. The hiker groans, rolling onto their side, hands pressing against the floorboards as they mutter, "Where? What happened?" Their voice weak, disoriented, eyes blinking against the harsh sunlight streaming through the windows. The cabin's interior unchanged, yet somehow different. The mirror's gone, the air heavier, thicker, as Alex watches from the shadows, their heart sinking with a mix of pity and dread, knowing the confusion, the terror, the inevitable realization that awaits. The hiker staggers to their feet, clutching their head. There was tea, and then you were here." Their gaze locking onto Alex, confusion shifting to fear as they take in the aged face, the pale eyes. "Who are you? What's going on?" Their voice rising, panic creeping in as they back toward the door, hands fumbling for the knob, their movements jerky, desperate. Alex steps forward, voice low. "Don't. It's no use. You're already here." Their words heavy with resignation as the hiker flings the door open, only to freeze, the cabin gone, The standing stones looming outside, their symbols pulsing faintly, the forest twisted and black beyond. And they gasp, "This isn't real. No, no, no." Spinning back to Alex. "What did you do to me? Where am I?" Their scream echoing as they stumble into the clearing, the cycle repeating, Alex's role cemented as guide and jailer, their guilt a silent companion in the endless dance. The hiker's terror a mirror of their own beginning, a reflection they can't escape, can't unsee, as the stones hum louder, welcoming another soul into their grasp. The hiker collapses among the stones, sobbing into their hands as the forest hums around them, the symbols glowing brighter, casting their light across Alex's face as they stand at the cabin's threshold, watching, whispering, "I tried to warn you. I tried to fight it once, too." Their voice barely audible over the pulse that fills the air, a rhythm they've come to know as well as their own heartbeat, a sound that binds them to this place, to this fate. They lean against the doorframe, the wood rough against their shoulder, and close their eyes, the memories swirling, every hiker they've led here, every face that's blurred into the next. The tea, the fall, the awakening, a parade of the lost, stretching back decades. Their own hands always at the center, pouring, guiding, betraying, and they mutter, "How many? How many more before it's enough?" The woman's voice answers, faint and distant, "As many as the woods desire, forever, dear." Her laughter a whisper on the wind as Alex opens their eyes, the hiker now staring at their own reflection in a puddle, their face aged overnight, eyes wide with horror, skin lined with years they didn't live. And Alex turns away, unable to bear the mirror of their own beginning, the guilt a weight they carry alone. The cabin a prison they can't escape, its walls whispering of every soul they've delivered to this fate. The hikers sobs a sound they've heard too many times, a sound they've made themselves, a shared despair that binds them across time, across the endless cycle. The forest cloaks itself in night once more, the stones falling silent as the hiker rises, their movements slow, mechanical, their voice rasping. A visitor. How unexpected. The words spilling out unbidden, a script Alex knows too well. Their own role, mirrored in this new figure as another distant cry, pierces the silence. "Help! Someone, please!" A fresh voice, raw with fear, a new flashlight beam cutting through the trees, the cycle spinning forward without pause, relentless in its hunger. Alex steps outside, the hiker turning to them, eyes pale and hollow. "It's my turn now, isn't it?" Their voice flat, resigned. And Alex nods. "It's always someone's turn." Their chest tightening as the new hiker stumbles into view. A woman, older, gray, streaking her hair, her coat torn, her face etched with exhaustion, shouting, "Thank God, people, I've been lost all night." Her relief palpable as she approaches, oblivious to the trap, her flashlight shaking in her grip as she staggers forward, her eyes bright with hope that Alex knows will soon fade. The hiker moves toward her, mirroring Alex's own first steps. "Come in, rest till morning." Their voice a hollow echo, and Alex watches, hands trembling, whispering, "I'm sorry," to no one. The mirrors shimmering back into existence, reflecting the scene. 3 figures now, linked by the woods, hunger, the cabin's glow brightening as the new hiker crosses the threshold. The stones humming louder, the cycle unbroken. Alex a silent witness to their own eternal sin, the weight of each soul piling onto their shoulders like stones in a grave, their breath hitching as the door shuts. Another chapter written in the woods' endless tale. The older woman sinks into the chair, her coat shedding flakes of dried mud onto the floor as she exhales. I thought I was done for. Been wandering since dusk. No signal, no nothing. Just trees and shadows. Her voice rough with fatigue, her hands trembling as she sets her flashlight down, its beam flickering weakly before dying out. Her gray eyes scanning the cabin with a mix of relief and wariness, lingering on the pile of gear, the mirrors, the blue glow that seems to pulse faintly in the corners of her vision. Alex stands by the stove, pouring the tea with hands that no longer shake, the liquid dark and shimmering as they mutter, "It'll warm you," their voice flat, the hiker watching from the shadows, their pale eyes glinting as the woman takes the mug, sipping slowly. Bitter stuff, but it's something. Reminds me of my grand's old remedies. Her laugh faint, nostalgic, before her brow furrows. "You two live out here? Seems lonely." Her question hanging in the air as Alex turns away, unable to meet her gaze, the woman's story spilling out unprompted. "I was hiking with my husband years ago. We used to come here, but he's gone now. Thought I'd do one last trip for him. Stupid idea, huh?" Her voice softening with memory, then tightening. "Thought I heard him out there, calling me, but it was just the wind, I guess." The mirrors glint, reflecting her face, lined, weary, but alive with a spark Alex envies. And they whisper, "The woods play tricks," as the tea takes hold, her words slurring. Funny, feeling dizzy now. Her eyes widening in confusion. The hiker stepping closer, the cycle spinning forward as Alex clenches their fists. The woman's tale, a fleeting glimpse of a life they'll never reclaim. Her fall inevitable, her husband's voice, a ghost the woods have long since claimed. The older woman's mug slips, clattering to the floor as she slumps forward, gasping, "What's happening?" Her voice thick, eyes darting to Alex, then the hiker, betrayal flashing briefly before glazing over, the mirrors catching her fall, dizziness, a choked cry, the crash to the floorboards, replaying the same cruel scene, the reflections multiplying until the room is a kaleidoscope of collapsing figures, a gallery of the lost staring back with fading eyes, her face joining the parade, blurring into the others, a new thread in the woods tapestry of despair. Alex turns away, whispering, "I'm sorry, I can't stop it." Their voice breaking as her breathing slows, the tea's poison swift and merciless, the hiker's pale eyes watching without emotion, the woman's laughter echoing faintly. "They'll wake where you did, as they all do." Her form dissolving into the shadows, leaving Alex alone with two limp figures, the stones hum seeping through the walls, a low pulse that syncs with their heartbeat, the cycle locking tighter, a chain forged in blood and time that binds them all. Alex, the young hiker, the older woman, in its unrelenting grip. They sink to their knees, hands trembling as they brush the woman's gray hair from her face, muttering, "You didn't deserve this. Not for him, not for anyone." But the words are hollow, powerless against the wood's will. The mirrors glinting as if savoring their guilt. The fires crackle, a mocking hymn, as her chest stills, waiting for the next awakening, the next soul, to join the endless dance. Alex's hands, stained with the weight of inevitability, their breath hitching as they realize how many more will follow, how many more they'll lead to this fate. The cabin trembles faintly, the floorboards creaking as the young hiker stirs, rising with a groan, their movements slow, mechanical, their voice rasping. "Where? What am I?" their eyes pale and hollow as they stagger to their feet, the older woman stirring moments later, her gasp sharp. No, no, this isn't right. Her hand clutching her head as she lurches upright, both turning to Alex, their faces mirrors of confusion and dawning horror, the stone's hum growing louder outside, seeping through the walls like a tide, the air thick with the scent of sap and decay, the forest pressing closer, eager for its new servants. Alex stands between them, voice low. It's too late. You're here now, like me. Their words heavy with resignation as the hiker stumbles to the door, flinging it open to the stones. The older woman following, both gasping as they see their reflections in puddles, aged hollow, decades stolen overnight. And the hiker shouts, "What did you do to us?" Their voice raw, while the woman sobs, "My husband. I was looking for him, not this." Her hands trembling as she touches her lined face, the truth sinking in, their screams blending into a chorus of despair that echoes through the clearing, the mirrors shimmering back into existence, reflecting three figures now, linked by the wood's hunger, their fates intertwined. Alex steps outside, whispering, "I didn't choose this. I'm trapped too." But the words fall flat, the hiker and the woman turning away, their eyes pale and resigned as the stones pulse, welcoming them into the cycle. Alex's guilt a weight they carry alone. The gathering of the lost a silent testament to the wood's insatiable will, the cabin a nexus of stolen lives, its glow a beacon for the next soul to stumble into its grasp. The forest cloaks itself in night once more, the stones glowing faintly as the hiker and the older woman stand among them, their voices rasping in unison. "A visitor? How unexpected!" The words spilling out, unbidden. A script Alex knows too well, their own role mirrored in these new figures, as another distant cry pierces the silence. "Help! Anyone out there?" A fresh voice, raw with fear, a new flashlight beam cutting through the trees, the cycle spinning forward without pause, relentless in its hunger, the air thick with the promise of another soul to claim. Alex steps forward, the hiker and the woman turning to them, eyes pale and hollow, the hiker muttering, "It's our turn now, isn't it?" Their voice flat, while the woman whispers, "I can't stop it. I feel it pulling me." Her hands trembling as the new hiker stumbles into view. A man, middle-aged, his beard flecked with gray, his jacket torn, his face etched with panic, shouting, "Thank God, people! I've been lost for hours." His relief palpable as he approaches, oblivious to the trap, his flashlight shaking in his grip as he staggers forward, his eyes bright with hope that Alex knows will soon fade. The mirrors reflecting four figures. Now, the cabin's glow brightening as the man nears the threshold, the stones humming louder, the cycle unbroken. Alex, a silent witness to their own eternal sin, the weight of each soul piling onto their shoulders, their breath hitching as the hiker and the woman move toward him, their voices echoing, "Come in, rest till morning." A chant that binds them all, the forest's hunger, a pulse they can't escape, another thread woven into its endless tapestry. The cabin door shuts, the new man's fate sealed within its walls, as Alex stands among the stones, the mirrors fading one by one, the forest stilling, the air heavy with the scent of decay and the promise of renewal, a faint twig snap echoing through the dark. A new hiker, perhaps, or just the woods playing its endless game. And Alex turns toward the sound, the hiker and the older woman, gone, their roles fulfilled, their defiance snuffed out, whispering, "Come in, rest till morning," to the empty air. The words, a ritual, etched into their soul. A mantra of the damned that echoes through the twisted trees, their sap dripping like blood. The woods stretching on, timeless, insatiable, claiming Alex and all who follow in its shadowed embrace. The trap eternal, the story unending, a loop of loss and luring woven into its roots, its branches, its very breath. They clench their fists one last time. You don't control me, a lie whispered to the wind, but the forest answers with a rustle, a whisper of leaves that sounds like laughter. The stones hum, rising to drown their voice, the screen fading to black, the final snap lingering, a promise of another soul, another night. The endless woods holding its prisoners forever in its whispered, unrelenting grasp. Alex, a shadow among shadows, lost to time, lost to themselves, lost to the woods that never let go. The cycle spinning on, a triumph of the dark that knows no end, no mercy, no release. Only the eternal repetition of its hunger, its will, its endless, whispering dominion.